Hello, I'm Devin, integrative health expert, Ayurvedic health advisor, and holistic coach. Welcome to InnerSpark Living from Your True Nature podcast. This is a resource for those ready to gently, naturally, and sustainably restore their energy, their clarity, their health, and their wholeness. Each episode offers grounded, practical guidance and soul deep insight drawn from nature's wisdom, integrative health, and the timeless principles of Ayurveda. Together, we explore real, sustainable self care, healing from the root and how to actually get there, and dissolving the inner barriers that keep you unwell, depleted, and stuck in survival mode. This is an invitation back home to yourself. And now for today's episode. Hello, welcome. Today we are exploring, I think, what I'm going to call the missing piece when it comes to healing and wholeness and radiance, vitality and energy. All of those things that I don't know of anyone who doesn't want to experience a little more of. So the missing piece when it comes to having and feeling and being and experiencing more of that in your life. There's this kind of knowing of an absence of it. Yeah, so when we're not feeling radiant, when we're not feeling full of vitality, when something just kind of feels missing, we feel empty, we feel depleted. You may not know what to call it, but you definitely notice its absence. And there is a word for this. This is a whole concept we will explore. Vedic wisdom calls it Ojas. Ojas. I invite you to just say that. You're probably sitting by yourself. Just feel that in your mouth and with your teeth and your lips. Ojas. Just kind of feels good to say. So Ojas is your life force. It is your resilience, your subtle undercurrent of vitality, that glow, that radiance. And we live in a world that burns this faster than it's built. And then it's kind of this 1-2 punch because we're not practicing other ways of being and living that build it. So all of us are very depleted. And then it's, of course, no coincidence that we are all experiencing greater instances of physical, emotional, mental health challenges. Burnout has just become normalized. It's like just, a thing. It's as normal as breathing or anything else that we might do in our life. Constant output is expected, and chronic stress is almost rewarded. It's like, oh yeah, you're doing all the things. Of course you're stressed. Yeah, way to go. And anything to remedy that, nourishment, slowing down, being still, is still seen as an indulgence. So my intention with like all of my work in life is to continue to bridge that gap. So we see that the way that we're doing things as a society is not working. How do we know it's not working? We're experiencing greater and greater instances of physical, emotional, mental health crises. And then there is this still a reluctance to do things differently to receive a different result. So my intention with everything that I do is to show that that shift needs to happen and that it's not as scary or as impossible as it may seem at first. So that's where we're going today. We are going to explore Ojas. According to Ayurveda, and then definitely confirmed by our own lived human experiences, nothing thrives without Ojas. Not your hormones, not your digestion, not your immune system, not your emotional stability and emotional flow, not your creativity or sense of purpose, your clarity, and definitely not your your spiritual life. Ojas is the system's deepest resource. So this is that like deep wellspring of everything, of our ability, of our sustaining um, flow and aliveness, our presence. And without it, everything feels harder and there will be dis-ease, the absence of ease. Ojas is a spiritual, emotional, and physical principle. It is all encompassing. And so we're going to talk about what it actually is, why it matters, how to rebuild it, what drains it, and then simple ways that you can begin to cultivate a life that supports the building and sustaining of ojas instead of constantly leaking it. So I invite you to think of this as deep nourishment as a sort of rebellion, if that if that appeals to you, and a reclamation of your true nature. So that was a very long preamble. Let's dive into it. All right. So what is ojas? According to Ayurveda, Vedic wisdom, ojas is everything. So it's the very essence of our life. It's what gives us our ability to truly live well from the inside out. And when I say live, I mean live, not just like be alive and kind of going through the motions, but like to live. Ojas is our physical vitality, our health. It's our hormonal stability and harmony, our emotional flow and resilience, our ability to like meet life and everything that life dishes out, so to speak, at the ever unfolding happenings of life, to be able to meet that. Ojas is our immunity. It's our capacity to digest food and life experiences, and everything that we receive through the senses, because all of that must be digested. So, conversations, media that we receive, things that we listen to, all of that has to be digested. Ojas is our steadiness, our patience, our softness, our trust. It's that spark of joy, purpose, and devotion. And like I said, it's the difference between merely like surviving and just kind of going through the motions and like being in life, kind of like zombie mode, and being alive, living, being here, fully here. So, what would you do with more of that? More of that ability, more access to all of that juiciness? For most of us, it's kind of unfathomable because we have kind of lived our whole lives in a depleted state. We've gotten so used to kind of being in that zombie mode that it's we wouldn't even be able to recognize that that's what's happening. We'd just be like, oh no, this is just life. Like we wouldn't be able to actually self-identify with that, even though that is what's happening, because it's just so normalized and has been the case for us for our whole lives, or most of them. So this nectar of our system that really holds it all together. So we have our energy or our prana that is going forth to do the things. We have our transformative fire and our drive, or tejas. And then ojas is what truly keeps everything supported and well and stable. It's the glow, it's the capacity, it's the anchoredness. And when there's an abundance of it, you feel grounded, you feel steady, hopeful, optimistic, capable, warm, nourished, confident, emotionally flexible, able to do less and get more from it. There's a greater sense of purpose and intentionality. So, kind of just reflect for a moment. How often do you feel that way in your life? Is it little glimmers? Is it never? Is it all day, every day? And sure, it's going to wax and wane a little bit. However, when we're living an Ojas supportive lifestyle, which we're going to get into in a moment, this can become our baseline. This doesn't become just like a thing that we get little glimmers of. This becomes the baseline. And the things we get maybe glimmers of every once in a while is what I'm about to share with you next, which is how it feels when Ojas is low. Okay. Depleted. We feel scattered, inflamed, maybe, overwhelmed, brittle, reactive, dry, physically and emotionally. So that kind of like dryness in our emotion, in our personality, in our minds. We might feel wired and tired, spiritually disconnected, and like we're running on fumes. There may be a host of different physical health problems and symptoms. So now reflect for a moment. Is this more of your baseline with glimmers of the other things that I listed when Ojas feels strong, that nourished, emotionally flexible, doing less with greater intention, grounded, steady, confident? So that is meant to be our baseline, our ground experience, baseline experience of life, not this other stuff. That's the other stuff that we might have occasionally because we're humans in life and it's not all the same all the time, and we will experience times of feeling depleted, and we use those times when Ojas is strong. We're able to really discern and use those times when those instances arise, the times of anxiety, reactivity, physical illness, emotional upheaval, etc. We use those as invitations to deepen into ourselves, to learn, to grow, rather than feel more defeated and let it feed more of our stories about unworthiness and life being hard, etc., etc. So Ojas is not just this physical kind of like safe buffer guard for our life, right? For like health and vitality. It's also our ability to like I said, be in life and to really understand ourselves and to view obstacles and challenges as the invitations that they are to deepen into ourselves, deepen into our sense of spirit and purpose. So Ojas really is everything. It's the foundation of all healing: physical, emotional, relational, spiritual, energetic, ancestral, all of it. It is truly a multi holistic concept. It's more than a concept. It's real. That wasn't the right word. It's everything. Everything. And everything becomes possible when we cultivate more of it. So what is draining Ojas? My goodness gracious. Like everything about our modern life. So the constant stimulation. Think about the ways we are just constantly stimulated all day, every day. The screens, the noise, the movement, the caffeine, the sugar, all of it. Having screens in our face in our face first thing in the morning and last thing at night, overworking, under resting, overriding our intuition. There's a word for this in Ayurveda. It's called crimes against wisdom. And when we know that something is going to cause us harm or isn't feeling good, and yet we choose to continue to do it anyway, that's overriding this innate wisdom. And that is a surefire way to cultivate disease. So if you're looking for that, just continue to override all those messages and signals from yourself. Additionally, rushing of any kind, especially rushing through meals, eating distracted, rushing in our minds, fast thoughts, rushing from this to that, thinking there's this, it has to be fast. We have to do the things and get there now. Skipping meals, eating processed foods with no prana. So when I say processed food, I literally mean anything that comes in a package. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm not eating, the I'm like reluctant to name brands, but the really bad things that might come to our minds, like straight up junk food. So I'm not eating poorly. And the truth is, this, first of all, none of this is like a moral judgment, right? It's not like I am a bad person because I ate something out of a package. Like, let's get all of that thinking out of the way. That needs to go because you know what? That kind of thinking, that all or nothing judgment thinking, is going to zap the Ojas a heck of a lot faster than maybe some processed food sometimes. Okay. So let's get that out of the way. Processed foods or anything that come in a package. And why does this not support us? Not because it makes us a bad person, but let's think about it. It has no life force energy. It's not doing us any good. So you're putting this stuff into your body that is not actually food anymore. It's kind of like a weird husk of maybe something that was food at one time. And then your body is like, I don't know what to do with this. And so you're not receiving the like really good nourishment and life force energy because it's not in there. And then you're putting the thing in your body that because it's not actually a real thing, your body's like, yo, what do I do with this? And so it digests it like an invader, like a toxin, putting more stress on it. So you see kind of the 1-2 punch. There's nothing really nourishing in there. You're putting this thing in there that your body's like, and now I gotta like process this like the toxin that it is, while also not getting rewarded for it with good, deep nourishment that I recognize and know what to do with. So anything that comes in packages, anything that has, if there are ingredients on it, like no, especially if you don't know what they are, if you can't recognize them, if you don't know what it is. And actually read ingredients on things sometimes. It's kind of astounding. Additionally, what is zapping our ojas? Suppressing our emotions. So many of us from a very young age were shamed out of feeling, out of emoting, out of processing those. And it is so important and so healthy. Performing instead of being, living disconnected from nature and natural rhythms, right? So, for example, the sun goes down, start turning lights off and go to bed. Don't turn lights on and kind of make this artificial daytime for yourself. That's one example of living very disconnected from nature. Being on all the time, perfectionism, consuming instead of creating or just being, hyper independence and thinking ourselves the controller or the doer or self made, or I don't need help. I don't want people to see me in my perceived imperfection. Comparing ourselves to others, unresolved grief, especially. I might add to that additionally, unresolved shame for sure. A lack of spiritual grounding and a lack of silence. Think about the last time that you were truly in silence. Not doing anything, not with a screen or noise, music, just being still and being quiet. So, again, none of this is like this kind of judgment call or a moral call, right? Like, we are doing the best we can at any time. We're doing the things that are shown to us, we're doing what we know to do. And yet, when things aren't working, we cannot ignore that something has to change. We can't keep doing the same things, operating in the same way, and expect a different result. It's just not going to happen. So we start to see, like, I'm experiencing this thing, this symptom, this tendency, this behavior, whatever it is. And I believe that something can change and I can have a different outcome. That's very true. And then we need to look backwards, get to the root cause, get to the things that are creating the result. And the beautiful thing is that when we start to build ojas, like I hinted at earlier, it gives us that emotional and mental ability and capacity to see more clearly. So the more that there is, the clearer we can see ourselves. And then the greater our courage and stability and commitment to make those changes. So it just keeps feeding itself. And we keep experiencing the positive benefits that we're looking for, the positive results. And we want more and we keep going. Ojas requires doing less with greater intention. It requires trust and the ability to receive. It requires nourishment that is both physical and subtle, emotional and energetic. And really, above all else, it requires the willingness to surrender. And that last one is the hardest for most people. We have been conditioned to earn rest, to justify the need to slow down, and to prove our worthiness. And yet, Ojas is built in the exact opposite environment of all of that. It is especially fragile when you've lived most of your life in survival mode. It gets depleted easily when your system has never learned that rest is safe and okay. And for most of us that have come from traumatic, dysfunctional childhoods, we never really learned how to rest and feel safe. There is a part of our nervous system that is always on. And that is a huge drain on Ojas and on our health. And so part of the work is to retrain ourselves. And honestly, I don't know if it's retrain, because maybe a lot of us never knew that sense of safety and calmness and stillness and a switched off nervous system, but to claim it now, whatever the case is, you can have it. It's possible. Your nervous system is meant to go in different directions. It can go on the fight, the flight, the chill, all kinds of different modes we can play with. So switching out of the survival, adrenaline, hypervigilant mode and training your system that it is safe to rest. And Ojas building it is not like a one and done project. It's a devotional way of living. It's a lifestyle. It's an ongoing love story relationship between your own body and soul and the divine source, spirit, whatever you like to call that which is greater and benevolent. Ojas is the fuel we need to live our truest purpose in these precious human lives. And that is to come to remember who we truly are as pure love and to then radiate that to all. Ojas is directly impacted by our emotions and the subtler aspects of life. So when we feel safe, held, connected, and like we belong, we're able to truly surrender and trust in something that is holding us, that is holding this whole experience. And that allows us to let go of that habitual armoring, the hypervigilance, the old stories and behaviors that we've had for so long that we mistake them as our true identity. So remember that every time you override your body and that innate wisdom I talked about, Ojas leaks. Every time you force yourself through exhaustion, Ojas leaks. Every time you stay in survival mode when rest is needed, Ojas leaks. And especially, I'm going to say it again, those unprocessed emotions, traumas, shame, and stress especially evaporate Ojas faster than anything else. To switch out of that fight or flight place, that hypervigilant lack of safety, a spiritual practice really, really, really comes into play. That sense of connection and faith softens our system, it gives us stability to do deeper healing work, and it offers us a greater sense of connection and purpose in life. So, in addition to tending the subtle aspects of ourselves, it's crucial that we meet our basic daily self care needs in a rhythmic and natural way. So, routine aligned with nature's rhythm, where we're eating, resting, moving, and working in regular, sustainable ways, is truly the secret to living an Ojas building lifestyle. So, Ojas is built and sustained when you create a simple daily rhythm, when you eat warm, cooked meals regularly, when you sleep at consistent times, making sure to go to bed before 10 p.m., when you move gently and intentionally, when you make space for silence every day through things like maybe meditation, yoga nidra, breath practice, journaling, when you allow yourself to receive the pleasure and the sweetness and the joy that is already present in your life in each moment, when you turn toward your body with tenderness, when you stop rushing and multitasking and let go of perfection, when you practice having a sense of faith in yourself and in life, when you spend time in nature, when you cultivate warm, safe relationships, when you honor your limits and say no before you collapse, and when you reduce stimulants of all kinds. So, caffeine, media, noise, movement, travel, multitasking. And then there's kind of those internal, maybe unseen stimulants that we might not recognize are stimulants. So maybe there's like an addiction inside of you to worrying or um, trying to think of all the different ways that something could turn out, practicing, rehearsing conversations or interactions with other people. Am I calling myself out right now and sharing with you things that I used to do? Yes, I am. Maybe you can also relate. So that kind of keyed up fear response that's inside of us still, that sign of a switched on nervous system that's still in traumatized mode. So just noticing where parts of you still might default into a more stimulating way of being. So catching your mind when it drifts and just noticing, like, where are you going? What are you doing? Because those kind of addictive thought processes can be quite stimulating. So obviously the low-hanging obvious fruits like the caffeine and the excessive media, excessive screens, noise, movement, travel, multitasking, yes. And then also you'll get really good at noticing like, oh, I do that thing where I'm planning every next move and I'm looking on around to what could go wrong. Ojas is built really when you stop abandoning yourself and embrace slowness, sweetness, and surrender. When you soften instead of brace, when you pause, when you let yourself cry, when you practice self compassion, when you allow just one moment of slowness and deep gratitude, Ojas grows. So, Ojas is a thing, a very abstract, necessary, vital, beautiful thing. It's also a way of living, and it is us being in devotion to what is true. And what is true is usually quite simple. It's simpler and it feels much better than the other hubbub and nonsense. So you don't rebuild Ojas by doing like all the things. You rebuild it by doing more of what feels good and natural to you more consistently. You let your inner body, your whole system know that I hear you, I honor you, and I will care for you. And something that you can ask yourself throughout the day many times is, does this choice build Ojas or burn it? And you'll know instantly. And you get to practice rebuilding that sense of self trust and not overriding that innate wisdom. Mm. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope that this discussion reminded you that deep nourishment is not optional. It is what makes life life and not just us surviving it and in zombie mode. I hope that you know that your softness is holy and that rest is your greatest medicine, and that you deserve and can have a life where your baseline is that confident, steady, glowing, clear, purposeful, vital, energetic, on purpose vibe, not the depleted, anxious, unwell. And I hope that you enjoy this process of deepening into yourself and starting to build this deep inner reserve from the inside out. Because as you tend to yourself, you are really tending to the whole. And I am grateful for that and for you. See you next time.